Hi everybody, I'm Christian. I'm the Youth Ambassador for the UN Decade on Biodiversity, and I'm really happy that I'm having the chance to speak to you today. I was invited to deliver some welcoming remarks for the 2018 Biodiversity Gala at St. Laurent Academy. I'm working on biodiversity issues for the past 10 years, and I have been reaching out to youth biodiversity organizations and educators all over the world, and your school is the only one that is organizing such an event like this, probably all around the world. So you can be really proud of this, and I would like to congratulate all the students and all the teachers for making this happen. You can be really proud of this accomplishment. Well, you might be wondering, why are you actually here? And if I think back to my own school days, I mostly spent time in the classroom, sitting around, listening to teachers. Sometimes it was interesting, most of the time it was so-so. And if I was not in the classroom, I was sitting at home, practicing for exams, all these kind of things. What I like about what you do at your school is that you go out, that you do not only learn about biodiversity in the classroom, but that you go to the Macun Marsh, that you select samples, that you study about teaches, about species, and that you do it all firsthand, that you experience biodiversity with your first senses. And I don't know how you feel like about it, but I think this is probably the most fun part of your week in the school. And I think this is some really important work that you do, and I would like to encourage you to carry on with these fantastic activities. And I'm also would like to remind you that all the work that you do really matters, that it can really make a difference if you look at the big picture. You might be thinking that these small efforts are not going to save a species or change everything for biodiversity. But if you add all these little things together, and there are thousands of young people in other parts of the world that are doing similar work like you. There are people in Indonesia, in Rwanda, in South Africa, in Brazil, in Bolivia that are also working on biodiversity. You are part of these people, and you're all working together for biodiversity, and I think this is a really important thing that you do, and you should really carry it on. And you should also think about it in the wider context. Working on biodiversity starts with talking about it, starts with all these little actions, even if it's just in the backyard of your school. And it also starts with voting. And you might be wondering, voting? Well, in a couple of years you will graduate, and you will have the right to vote. And you will graduate from a school where you have learned about biodiversity. And I think what we need to do is to make biodiversity an election issue that is at least as important as climate change, as resources, as oil, as our economy. So when you have the right to vote, vote for politicians that are active on biodiversity issues, that have a say on it. Make sure that no politician can be active without having at least a stance on biodiversity. And finally, when you turn on your TV, when you check the news, you might get really pessimistic these days. You might think, what kind of future do we all have? Your southern neighbor, the US, is governed by a lunatic man that is doing a lot of disastrous things for all of us. If you look to Yemen, if you look to Syria, to Venezuela, a lot of things are really not going well. What the media is not covering is that there are also a lot of positive news. And let me give you just one example. A couple of weeks ago, your parliament here in Ottawa adopted a massive budget increase for biodiversity. No other country in the world did this. Canada will spend $1.3 billion over the next 5 years to protect biodiversity. So Canada is really leading the way, and I think this is a positive example that also you can benefit from. In a couple of weeks from now, there will be a big biodiversity conference in Montreal. 196 governments will come together, and I would like to invite you to join this conference. Maybe we can even meet there. Come to this conference, raise your voice about biodiversity, and show government representatives that youth engagement on biodiversity, that integrating biodiversity into the curriculums of all schools, and not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom, really matters, and that young people care about biodiversity, and that we can all make a difference together. Thank you so much, and I'm wishing you a wonderful evening.